Okay, it is time for 60 minutes of pure fantasy and sports betting glory. It's the sweat. No fire alarm testing scheduled
I heard about
tonight.
that.
So if it does go off, we will need to skedaddle this time.
Because that will be a real emergency. So he's Emerson, I'm Jessie, and we're starting with our NBA panel consisting of DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, RotoWire's Alex Barutha, and Ryan Mogjosh, host of the Four Seasons podcast for Ball is Life.
We are chasing, we are fading DK Sportsbook bets ahead of tonight's 9-game slate, and well, how the turntables.
Yeah.
Houston is a 15-point favorite over Golden State. Warriors are without their top 5 players, but chase or fade, Houston will not cover this spread, Jules.
I will chase Houston not covering this spread. The number's a little bit too big for one of the worst teams against the spread in the NBA. Houston started this season 0-6 against the spread, so while they're beating some of the teams that they should, they're definitely not doing it by the margins that they should. This Warriors team just grinded out a big win over Portland, although that was at home, but they were 11.5-point dogs in that game. So while things could go very wrong for the Warriors in this one, I think that saying it'll stay within 15 points isn't going out all that far. If you want to, capitalize on Houston in this situation, I think betting on their team total over 123.5 is the way to do it. They should score some points, and Golden State's opponents have topped their team total in 6 of 7 games this season.
Ryan, does Golden State stay within 15 points?
They do. I'm also going to chase this. It's not popular to watch the Warriors play basketball these days, but I did against Portland, and I really liked what I saw. They're scrappy. They play really hard. And I like that formula against a team in Houston that's kind of easy breezy going through the motions.
Alex?
I'm on the same page with these guys. We all know the Warriors are bad, but they're playing this kind of brand of basketball now where everyone has to share the ball, which is originally what Steve Kerr intended when he took over the Warriors. The Rockets have done almost nothing to earn this line. They're a below average team right now. Harden and Westbrook both have negative net ratings. They've only covered one game, like Julian mentioned, and that was against the Grizzlies, and they barely covered. So I just have really no faith in the Rockets. This spread is just way too big. I'll take the plus 15.
Ryan, one of the highest game totals of the night belongs to the Bucks and Clippers at 228. Now, the Bucks have scored at least 115 points in each of their last 3 games. So chase or fade, this game hits the over.
I'm chasing this. Last time you guys gave us a chase or fade with the over, I took the under, and it was the biggest over total in the history of the NBA. So I'm chasing this. The Bucks play at the fastest pace in the entire league, and the fact that Kawhi is not in this game means that the defense is going to take a step down, and the way Kawhi is so methodical on offense is going to go against that without him. So I think it's going to be a fast-paced game. I think I'm going to chase the over.
Alex, you want to chase the over here too?
I don't. I'm leaning more towards the under. Both of these teams, I think, want to be known as defensive-minded teams, and Kawhi being out, that does matter a lot. He's off the floor defensively, but at the same time, they're still going to be good on that side of the ball. Doc Rivers is a great coach. I think they're going to really try to focus and hone in on Giannis, try to slow them down. Clippers are also 23rd in pace, and I think being at home, they're more likely to dictate the pace of this game. This is a really good number, though. I just think the defense is going to show itself out here, despite Kawhi Leonard. So I'll take the under 228.
Jules, we got one for the over, one for the under. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm siding with Alex here and going with the under. The Clippers have been a slow-paced team, and I do agree with his point that playing at home, that should help kind of play that out a little bit more. Without Kawhi, yes, you're going to go to Lou Williams more, but you're going to kind of grind out possessions, try and make it a fewer possession game to try and keep it close with Milwaukee. The spread's been growing all day in Milwaukee's favor for obvious reason with Kawhi out. But the Clippers, regardless, have been an under team this season. They're 2-5 to the over. So, and the games that Kawhi's been out have gone significantly under. So I'm just going to keep riding that trend and say that the Clippers at home have been an under team, and it's going to stay that way, even with a fast-paced Bucks team coming in here.
All right, Pistons and Knicks. Andre Drummond is minus 910 to record a double-double. Not super enticing odds. However, You can grab that same double-double prop for Knicks rookie R.J. Barrett at plus 400. Chase or fade. Barrett hits that against Detroit. Alex.
I am going to fade this. This is like, I don't know how I can stay away farther from this. He's had one double-double in his 7 games, and it was a complete outlier. You grabbed 15 rebounds. If you take that game out of the equation, he's averaging 4.5 rebounds per game. The Pistons are also the 4th best rebounding team in the league, and this is probably going to be one of the slower paced games of the slate with a 206.5 over under. I would just much rather take him minus 560 to miss out on the double-double, which definitely isn't as fun, but I think if I hit that number all season, I'd probably be profitable.
Jules?
I echo everything that was just said. That was basically every number I was going to use, so I have nothing left to say. What I can say is that Andre Drummond was used in the opening. He has nothing to do with the question, so that was nice of you to mention him, Emerson. But part of the reason that you hate this so much is because Drummond gets every rebound. He gets 20-plus rebounds a game, so that just leaves fewer rebounds for R.J. Barrett, who doesn't rebound to begin with and just had that one weird game of 15 boards. So is he going to score? Yes. But the rest of it, he hasn't been that type of player so far this season.
Well, there could be a small opportunity or chance that he does tonight. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't think so. Everything that they just said, spot on. If I had to add one kind of new thing to even support the fact stronger, the Knicks are power forward university. That's all they have on their entire roster. So boards are going to be hard to come by, not to mention Drummond eats glass. So, fade.
All right, guys, Pascal Siakam has been great so far for the defending champion Raptors, averaging 26 points per game. His point total for tonight is projected at 23.5 in a home game against the Kings. So chase or fade, he goes over this number, Julian.
Yeah, I'll chase it. He's averaging 26 a game, and it's a fast-paced matchup against the Kings. He's at home. I think I like Siakam kind of from a DFS tournament perspective because his salary has declined so much. He's down at $8,000. He hasn't really had a breakout game since opening night against the Pelicans. So yeah, I think part of the reason I like him from a DFS perspective is because he should score well in this game. So going a few points under his average for his point prop kind of gives a little bit of an edge.
Ryan, what do you think?
I'm also chasing this. The Kings still stink. Not as bad as they did towards the beginning of the year, but they're 22 in defensive rating, and Pascal's matchups tonight is going to be Harrison Barnes, and then Lotzia, which is well under average on defense. So I'm chasing this.
Alex, do you want to make it 3 for 3 here?
It's going to be 3 for 3. Siakam is averaging 20 shots a game, and anytime you can get a number, for someone's over-under point total that's close to the amount of shots that you're taking, you're going to feel pretty good about it. He's 2-2 against this number over the past 4 games, but he's also taken only 1 free throw attempt over the past 2 games, which is just strange, and I think is going to regress in the other direction. I'm going to look for him to be aggressive tonight. And yeah, I'll take him over 23.5.
All right, we're going to build some NBA DFS lineups with you three coming up. But first, let's hear from Pat Mayo about the Cleveland Browns running back situation.
I guess the two to talk about, and maybe we'll talk about Nick Chubb. What sort of impact do you think Kareem Hunt coming back will have on him?
I'm actually glad you brought him up because I was going to bring him up anyway. When you said I don't want to talk about Marlon Mack, and I said I was going to bring him back because how I felt this entire time, this entire season. Like, Nick Chubb, look at his performance. Look at how good he is. Look at the talent that he is. There's no way that we're going to have Kareem Hunt come back and they're just going to be like, screw this guy. He's been so amazing. He's top 5 potential running back, at least top 10. But Kareem Hunt's back. We got to give him touches. I am 100% reversing course, and it's not because I think Kareem Hunt, talent-wise, is any better than Nick Chubb. Honestly, side by side, you could argue one over the other, and I wouldn't even argue with you hard. I think they're both amazing running backs. But the use for the past 2 weeks, specifically this past week with Hilliard in there on 3rd and 1, and they go to 4th down, and then they run it to him. But he was in there on 4th down too, and then a few more plays, and the snap count's only 60%, 62, 6, somewhere around there the past 2 weeks. Now I'm legitimately concerned. And it has nothing, again, to do with Kareem Hunt. It just goes to Nick Chubb. And if the Browns are going to be giving him 60%, Well, that hurts Nick Chubb, especially if he comes out in a game and they're giving him 60% and all of a sudden he runs 5 times for 5 yards. Kareem Hunt's first 2 carries go for 40. Now I am legitimately concerned. I didn't think it was going to be an issue, but I'm backtracking on it, and I'm sorry for everybody that thought they were with me on this as a top 10 running back.
I still think that he's going to be a top 10 running back from this point on, and he has a definite chance to establish himself this week, especially because Kareem Hunt, I don't know where his conditioning is at. He hasn't played a football game in over a year at this point. That, especially this week, I think he can stick with Nick Chubb. This Bills defense, not good up the middle, stopping the run whatsoever, as Adrian Peterson showed last week. And they've been having problems now for like a month trying to stop the run. That's the way to get to the Bills defense. So I would expect maybe even like 20 carries for Nick Chubb, 10 carries for Kareem Hunt, something like that. But even if he remains around his 60% mark, which he split last week with Dontrell Hilliard, I mean, that was sort of a low-end aberration. That was sort of his floor for percentage of snaps that he was playing. They took him out in some very high-leverage situations, which just absolutely made no sense to me. But hey, Freddie Kitchens, that's what he's going to do. If he can get back up to, like, even if it's like a 70-30 split between him and Hunt, that still makes him probably a top 10 guy.
It does, and those are all the positive side of things. But that's 2 weeks in a row now. The week before this was only like 62, 63%. It was another bad week. So,
well, in fairness, 2 weeks ago, he fumbled twice in 3 plays.
Okay, but that's my point, is you have that game, and then you come out of it, and they give him the 60%. I'm not saying it makes sense. You just painted the positive side of it. The positive side is, yes, Nick Chubb without Kareem Hunt, even as a threat, I would still be saying I am a little bit concerned. The top 10 is now he's back at the back of the top end. Like before, I say he's pushing top 5 behind Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey and those guys. He's like nipping. Honestly, he's basically, to this point, nipping at the heels and almost neck and neck with Saquon Barkley. Actually, I think he's got better points per game than Saquon Barkley so far. So he's in that conversation. I'm just saying going forward, I don't know that he doesn't fall out of that conversation. The positive side is what you said. He comes out of this game, dominates. Kareem Hunt doesn't look that great, and everything's fine. The downside is just the picture I'm painting for it.
What's going on, people? I'm Brendan Glasheen alongside DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. Good to see you. And we're getting you ready for College Football Saturday, presented by Wrangler. Jules, 9 games to choose from here, and it truly doesn't get better than this one. Number 1 LSU against number 2 Alabama, Saturday afternoon in Tuscaloosa. It's the first time since 2011 we get number 1 against number 2 in the regular season. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, this is the game that's been circled all year on the college football calendar, and now it's finally here, and it's number 1 traveling to number 2. But I've got to lean with number 2 here, Alabama at home. As long as Tua Tagovailoa's ankle is in good enough shape to get 80, 90% of the player, the Heisman Trophy type of quarterback that we thought we would see, I think that we're going to see enough out of this Alabama offense. This is a different LSU team. They play more on offense. They're going to maybe struggle a little bit against this Alabama defense, whereas the LSU defense isn't quite as good as we've seen in past years. We've seen teams get to them. I think Alabama's offense gets to them here.
That's an undefeated matchup in the SEC. We've got one in the Big Ten as well. Number 5 Penn State heads to Minneapolis to face number 13 Minnesota. Both squads are 8-0. Do the Golden Gophers upset the Nittany Lions at home and get that resume builder?
I think that Penn State's going to wind up getting this one. I think it's going to be another really great game, kind of the appetizer here for the LSU-Bama game to follow. But in the end, I think Penn State is the better team. Great story, great season for Minnesota, but I think they're going to get their first loss here.
All right, and one more. Baylor remains atop the Big 12 standings at 5-0 in the conference. Number 11 Bears take on TCU on the road. Any chance here for the Horned Frogs?
I think so. I don't think any of us expected Baylor to be 8-0 at this stage. TCU sitting at 4-4, but they're 3-1 at home. They have a huge win by 10 points over Texas at home. I think TCU can play, especially when they're in their own building, and they're going to be ready for this game, hyped up to take down an undefeated Baylor squad that probably is playing a little bit better than they actually are.
I'm Brendan Glasheen. He is DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow of DK Live, and that's a look at some of Saturday's top college football matchups presented by Wrangler.
Repeat yourself.
I cannot believe we're talking about Week 10 in the NFL, but here we are.
Well, you know what, Jessie? Last week was Week 9.
Yeah, that is. You can count. I'm really proud of you. All right, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Steve Buchanan are in the house to talk spreads for the aforementioned Week 10.
Since they're in the trio box there, the 3 box. I can't see Jeff's whiteboard. Is there any way we can punch Jeff up full?
Okay.
So we can. Okay, Rufus is a system dog. Are you kidding me?
Burn!
Are you
my
kidding
God!
me?
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Emerson and I play each other in the fantasy football league, and that might not mean much to anyone, but you got to start the psychological warfare early here. Expect the insults to flow through the course of the week.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, you occupy so much real estate in Emerson's head right now. Like it's.
Well,
He's
Jeff.
DMing me today.
There's just like a humming noise emanating from him right now.
That's a fire alarm.
Yeah.
Oh, good grief. Yeah, well, you know what, Jeff? I changed my team name too, but I'm not going to share it here on air.
He's so rattled.
Need you to tell us, though, if you think the following spreads are too high or too low, maybe even just right here. Jeff, the Steelers are playing well and are at home this week against the Rams, but LA is a 3.5
You can't even focus.
point road favorite. Is this spread too high or too low?
I mean, I want to trust the Rams in this spot. I do. I mean, Sean McVay, 7-3-1 against the spread against not out-of-conference opponents since he took over the Rams in 2017. And then you have the Steelers on the other side. Obviously, they did play well last week, although they did kind of get lucky there. I mean, they probably should have lost that game, although they did cover the spread. I'm going to side with the public and the Rams on this spot. I just feel like with Mason Rudolph and the addition of Jalen Ramsey, it's just got a possibility here of like some kind of pick six or turnover happening where you just get that push. I would like this line a lot better if it was like -2.5, -3. I'd be much more happy to take the Rams, but I still feel like in this spot, I just don't trust the Steelers enough. I think they got lucky last week, and I'd much rather trust LA coming off the bye.
Who do you trust here, Reed?
Yeah, I'll go with this being a little too high. I'm with Jeff where it should be around 2.5. If you just look at really with the Rams coming off a bye, it's a nice prospect where you have McVay planning for a team that doesn't necessarily have a quarterback at all for 2 weeks. And so you can really scheme, but defensively, they had some guys lost in free agency. And the offensive line for the Rams, specifically with the run game, is really bad. If you look at Pittsburgh's defensive line, they're second in adjusted sack rate. And although the Rams aren't giving up a ton of sacks, I still think this defense can get after them. So I'm going to say this is too high.
Steven?
I've never seen you so rattled before. Like, I'm usually the guy who likes to rattle the cage. You have just been rattled and shocked to the core. I can't believe it. I'm just so shocked.
It's literally the only thing that rattles me in life is when people insult my son.
He's married, by the way.
I just said he was a system dog. That's all.
That's fine.
Anyways, we got two good teams that have been really good against the spread so far this season. The Rams are 5-2 overall. Pittsburgh 3-1 against the spread as underdogs this season, and they both got two good defenses on either side. Like, you're not going to see a lot on the ground, I don't think, in this week. The two really tough teams to run against. I think this spread is just perfect, though. I like the Rams in this spot -3.5. I think it's set just right here. You know, a little higher, a little lower. I can see where Jeff and Reed were kind of talking about here, but I think 3.5 is just fine. I think the Rams win this game single-handedly, and yeah, I have no problem with this spread at all.
All right, they did it, guys. Miami coming off their first win of the season. They did it! But as usual, they're still major underdogs, 10 points to be exact, as they travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Now, Reed, is 10 points too high or too low for this rejuvenated Miami team?
Rejuvenated. They beat Adam Gase. I mean, come on, the Jets are terrible. We talked about it, right, last week that the Dolphins had a good shot at beating that team, and they did, and now they go to Indy. I'm going to say this is too low, though. I think Indy is still a good team, and it does rest a lot on Jacoby Brissett, right? If he's not ready to go, I know there's been there's been talk that he might be okay. If they decide to hold him back, I think that does change it a little bit. Not by much, but if you look at the Colts 2-0 after a loss against the spread with a plus-minus of 10.8, and so that's right on that number, I'm going to say it's too low.
Steve, too low for you?
You know what the problem is with people on this show? Everybody's so soft.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
For a change and go, you know what? This is actually too high. I actually like Miami in this spot. Because guess what? When the Colts have been favored this season, they're 2-2 against the spread. Oh, that's a smash spot for them. And you know what? The Dolphins, surprisingly, they're 4-4 against the spread so far. They've covered in 4 straight games. And it's not like they're getting absolutely wrecked when they go on the field either. They're allowing an average of 23.5 points per game over the last 4 games. I wouldn't say that they're actually getting annihilated out there. And then we might see Brian Hoyer, like, oh no, not Brian Hoyer. Like, honestly, this Dolphins team really isn't as bad as people are making out to be. Now, as being out of the mix, that's, that obviously hurts a little bit there. But if that means more Devontae Parker, Ryan Fitzpatrick is running this offense just fine. I think this is too high.
Jeff, too high, too low, just right.
Oh, that's Steve Buchanan drinking the Dolphins Kool-Aid. Are you kidding me?
Thank you.
This team is terrible. They got lucky and they beat the Jets. The Jets.
Don't care.
Look, no, I don't care if Brian Hoyer.
I gave you stats from the past 4 games, so don't take the stupid cop out that they only beat the Jets.
Oh.
I don't care if Brian Hoyer starts or whatever. They lucked out. They had the Jets come to Miami, get in that Miami nightlife. They're going on the road to Indy this week. Indy has a good defense. Marlon Mack's probably going to score 2 times in this game. There's probably going to be a pick 6 because Ryan Fitzpatrick cannot go more than 1 week without turning the ball over multiple times. No, I'd like this more at 9.5 if I knew Hoyer was going to start, but if Brissett starts, I think 10 is too low.
Cowards.
All right. Undefeated no more. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they dropped TB12 and company. Now the Birds are 9.5-point road favorites against the winless Bengals, who are going to be starting a rookie at quarterback. Steve, too high or too low?
Yeah, I think this one's too low. I mean, the Bengals have just been absolutely brutal against the spread. They're 3-5 on the year, and they're one of 5 teams who lose by an average of 10 points per game. Like, the Bengals have just been absolutely atrocious this season. I know that A.J. Green could be getting back into the mix here, but let's see what we get with Finley starting under center here. Baltimore's a very good team overall, and downing the Patriots was just another feather in their cap. Like, we can say all we want about how their defense isn't as good as it's been in the past, and that's true, but I just don't see a path of victory here for the Bengals, or even just to cover the spread at 9.5. I just feel like the Ravens will win here by double digits. I don't see how the Bengals would cover in this spot, so I think right now this is too low.
Jeff, too low? I'm gonna take this one.
Wait.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually have more confidence in the Dolphins than I have in the Bengals, so that should tell you something. I mean, look, they are starting a rookie quarterback. I actually think Finley could in some ways be an upgrade over Dalton, which gives you a little bit of pause. But with Lamar Jackson playing so well, even if the Ravens start out slow in this game, I mean, Lamar Jackson could bring them back to cover this on his own, right? So there's so many variables here. There's so many ways that Baltimore gets to this number. I think it's too low as well. So that's about it.
Reed?
Yeah, I mean, the Cincinnati team is absolutely terrible, and I just love Steve calling us cowards. And in the next segment, he says Cincinnati's. I mean, it's the same. It's basically the same team. I mean, both these teams are terrible. I mean, put these teams together, they're terrible. So, I mean, if you want to pick Cincinnati, to Steve's point, I mean, they're 1-1 against the spread. That spread has been double digits. So yeah, I can potentially see that. But look at all of these skill players. I mean, you got Joe Mixon, who is absolutely not doing anything. A.J. Green said he was going to go through walkthroughs and then just hurt his toe or his foot, and now he's seeing a specialist or seeing the trainers because he's a little sore. So there's really nothing here where I like Cincinnati, so I'm going to say it's too low.
All right, finally looking ahead to Monday Night Football. Great matchup between the Seahawks and 49ers, a quarterback battle for the ages. The undefeated 49ers are 6.5-point favorites at home. Jeff, is that too high or too low?
No, I think this one's way too high. Whenever you give almost a touchdown against Russell Wilson, you really got to think here. I mean, this is a player playing at such a high level right now that I almost don't care who he's going against. I'm going to take the points and just, or should say, I'm going to take the underdog here in Seattle. I mean, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks also, they're 8-1-1 as away underdogs covering over the last 2 years. Look, I know it's San Francisco. I know they have a great defense and stuff, but I completely expect Wilson to keep this within a touchdown.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I'm with Jeff. I mean, when you look at what the 49ers are doing, it's respectable, right? Because they're doing this with 2 offensive linemen that have been injured. And Kyle Juszczyk, yes, he's a fullback, but that's what they want to do is they want to run the ball. And he was really, really integral in terms of what their plan is and what their offensive scheme is. But when we look at Seattle and what Russell Wilson is doing with that offensive line that's not been good, has been giving up a ton of sacks. And the receivers, right? Tyler Lockett is great and DK Metcalf played well, but I mean, their number 2 receiver is a rookie. And so what Russell Wilson has got this team doing, I think this is too high.
Steve, too high or too low?
Yeah, I think this is too high as well. Like, I know how good the 49ers defense has been, but we got one of the best passing quarterbacks when under pressure in Russell Wilson. Like, I think that's going to make such a major difference here. I just don't see the 49ers hosting the Seahawks here and just absolutely steamrolling them. Like, I know they've done that to other teams in the past so far, but Seahawks 2-0 as underdogs against the spread so far this season. The 49ers are only 5-3 against the spread. Like, I know it's a decent record, but for the way that they've beaten some teams, you think actually that record would be a little bit better right now. So I think this is just a little too high. I think, look, the Seahawks have a legitimate chance of beating the 49ers in this game. It's going to be damn close, but if it's going to be close like that, 6.5 is just too high.
And something Jeff brought up at the beginning of this segment, we actually have a photograph of the system dog here. And is that the face?
That's a freaking model.
Of a
that
system,
is America's next top dog model.
That is the face of a system dog.
That's
Agreed.
the face of
Slate approved.
Slate approved what?
System
your
dog.
Slate approved pick. Your Slate approved pick because he's not a system dog. That looks like value right there. That looks like value, absolute value. Never overpriced. Always absolutely perfect. Anyway.
Jesse, your hair looks great.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. You guys stick around, except for Jap. Gonna need you for NFL price check in a bit.
The heavy favorite money line parlay this week is just stealing money. But I'm going to do that one second.
Yes, we're all waiting.
Because that one is highly anticipated. There's a line outside the studio chanting, cheering, with torches raised.
I had asked them to get out of the way just so I get in here.
Okay.
Why do they have torches?
Because they want to burn down the door and get the pick out of me.
From the person inside the wooden...
That's a really thick door, yeah.
All right. Anyway, before the people bust in here.
Yeah, security measures are pretty high here. I don't think anyone's burning down anything.
I'm going Arizona Cardinals plus 4.5. They've been very good against the spread. I get that they're on the road here, but the Bucs, who, yes, should have covered against Seattle if Seattle made that game-winning field goal, did not because they lost by 6 in overtime on the touchdown. Tampa hasn't covered a spread since the last game in September. They've been terrible against the spread. Arizona's trending in the right direction. Points will be valuable because we could see a lot of points in this game with the 51.5 total, but I just like the way that Arizona's trending. They just covered against a really good 49ers team, even though they're going to have to go on the road now versus at home. I really like Arizona in this spot getting 4.5. I think they could potentially win that outright, and losing by a field goal obviously fits there. Heavy favorites money line parlay. Too easy this week.
Too easy.
Baltimore Ravens are 9.5-point favorites at Cincinnati. They're minus 435 on the money line. You're using them. New Orleans Saints minus 590 on the money line, hosting the terrible Atlanta Falcons as 13-point favorites. You're using them. Indianapolis Colts, doesn't matter who the quarterback is, you're hosting the Miami Dolphins, minus 455. You're using them. Put those three teams together, minus 130. That's easy money.
Where do you think it falls apart?
It doesn't
The
fall
Colts.
apart.
You think it falls apart with the Colts?
Yes.
The Dolphins are going to win this weekend?
They won last week. I called it.
Okay, they beat the Jets at home.
I don't care. The Dolphins are better than people say, offensively.
That's
If
fine.
they still had Preston Williams, I would say yes. But
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I think it
that was
falls
kind of
apart with I think the Bengals win. I think they come out of the bye. AJ
Oh.
Green might be getting healthy. Cordy Glenn
Is he
as
playing
well.
this week?
That's the
rumor.
If you go to certain other fantasy sites that will offer projections when someone is projected to play, he has a projection this week for the first time.
Meaningless.
So, we'll see what happens.
When you want to find out when the news breaks, though, DK Live will have that for you.
Exactly.
Bam! Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen in with your DraftKings update. Hockey, 2 games on the docket this evening, so just 4 teams to work with when constructing your lineups. You've got 2 bottom-of-the-barrel Eastern Conference teams squaring off in the Rangers and the Wings, and then 2 top 2 teams in the West doing battle. First place Blues at the Oilers. Scanning the slate, I think the reigning Stanley Cup champions are a good place to start, people. Most expensive Blues skater is David Perron at $5,800. Ninth on the slate. No points over his last 2, but 7 shots on goal. Last time out against the Canucks, at least 2 shots on the goal in each of his last 9. You get 1.5 DraftKings points a pop for those. Something's got to give. Same goes for center Ryan O'Reilly, $5,700 tonight. You take out his stinker at Vancouver, 8 points over his previous 4 games. Plus, O'Reilly has been a fantasy player, a special fantasy player on the road. 13.1 DK points a game compared to just 6.1 DK points a game at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis. Just overall, Blues have won 5 straight, including 4 in overtime. They're rolling into Edmonton. It's been a different contributor each night. Plenty of value.
As promised, our NBA panel is back. DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, RotoWire's Alex Barutha, and Ryan Mogjosh, host of the Four Seasons podcast for Ball is Life. Gentlemen, this is pick and roll. We give you 2 options. You pick one, and then you roll off the other for tonight's 9-game NBA slate.
We
Jessie?
start with the top 2 most expensive guards on the slate, James Harden and the Mavs' Luka Doncic. So, Julian, which one do you like better?
Yeah, I like both of these guys a lot and think that if you want to put both in a lineup, there is the value to do so. But if we're picking, I think that the tiebreaker here is just going to have to be the blowout potential with Houston. And I know we all earlier in the show said that we like Golden State to cover this, and you could get burned by Harden if he has a big game in a close game, high-scoring game against Golden State. But at the same time, Russell Westbrook's coming back from a game off to take some of that usage, and this could, given what the spread is, be a game that he doesn't have to play much in the fourth quarter. If you look at Doncic, he has back-to-back games of over 73 DraftKings points. He's rebounding the ball really well. He's half an assist away from averaging a triple-double on the season. Orlando ranks 27th in DraftKings points allowed to guards, so it's just a safer spot to trust Doncic, I think.
Do you think it's a safer spot to trust Doncic, Alex?
I mean, I do like Doncic here. You save about $1,400 going Doncic over Harden. I'm sure everyone's going to go James Harden in cash games just for the high floor. I do like the variance of Doncic for GPPs. But yeah, Julian hit a lot of good points. I mean, it's, I had the same thought. It's where I do like Golden State to cover, but for DFS, I'm also worried about a potential blowout. So it's kind of hard to get through both of those things. But, Harden had one of his best games of the season against the Grizzlies, but that was without Westbrook. And if you take that game away, then Doncic is actually averaging more DraftKings points than Harden. So I think all in all, I'll take the discount, and I'm more of a GPP player anyway. So I lean towards Doncic.
Ryan, you going to be contrarian against these 2 guys and go with Harden?
I am, yes.
Nice.
I think I do like Harden better. They play a scrappy Golden State team, and like we said, I don't know if it's going to be a blowout because they play very hard. But Luka is on a heater. The only reason why I picked Harden here is because they do play Orlando, Luka that is. And he's a big guard, so I think they're going to stick Jonathan Isaac on him, which is an absolute nightmare. It'll be a really fun game to watch because Isaac is 9 feet long. But if I had to choose one, I think I'm going to go Harden.
All right, Alex, there are 2 centers priced at $10K plus, Towns and Drummond. If someone is going to pay up in this spot, who is the better play?
I think it's Towns here. I mean, first of all, he's fresh since he hasn't played in 2 games because of the suspension. While Drummond has been playing 37 minutes a game over the past 5 contests, I mean, they are running him into the ground. Also, the Grizzlies, who Towns is facing, give up the 13th most DraftKings points to centers. That's not, it's not an especially good number. It's very middle of the road, but it's better than Drummond's matchup. The Knicks, who give up the 3rd least DraftKings points to centers. Apparently, the Knicks only do literally one thing well, and it's stopping centers from popping off on DraftKings. So I think I like Towns here against a bad team on a lot of rest. And it sounds like Teague and Shabazz Napier are probably not going to play, or at least questionable. So that will only funnel more usage through Towns here.
Ryan?
Yeah, both are monsters, and I don't know if you can go wrong with either one of them, but I think I'm going to go slightly Cat as well for the fact that he is rested. I don't like Drummond going against Mitchell Robinson. Now, I don't think he's going to stop him from getting his 15 rebounds, but Mitchell Robinson is a very good defender, a very good rim protector. Also, Cat's a bad boy now. His first game off of beating some butt.
All right, Julian, they're both really good. Go ahead, select one.
Fantastic analysis, Emerson. Yeah, I mean, Drummond's pulled down 20 or more rebounds in 4 consecutive games. So while Mitchell Robinson is a beast, he's still going to be a monster on the glass. I think they're both really safe plays in cash. But I like the upside with Towns a little bit more. Memphis is a fast-paced team now. They don't really have a guy that's able to shut him down inside and out. Whereas the Knicks are a bigger team and can at least throw bodies at Drummond. I don't care about the fight necessarily with Towns, but he should be fresh at least with the time off. So I think that he's the slightly better play, but kind of like the answer with Doncic and Harden, like if you want to go Towns at center and Drummond at utility and build around that with the value, you can definitely do that.
All right, guys, at forward, a lot of outs next to key players' names. Giannis is way more expensive than anyone else. He's $11,700.
Whoa.
Highest number on the slate. So let's just skip him for now and give you two guys coming off 40-plus DK point performances. Giannis's right-hand man, Chris Middleton, he's $7,000, fresh off of a 40.75 DK point game on Monday night. Meanwhile, Philly's Tobias Harris is $6,600 and has put up 40-plus in his last 2 games. That's 2 in a row. Ryan, who has the better matchup tonight?
I think it's Middleton. Not to mention Kawhi's out. But with Tobias, he plays Utah, who's the #1 ranked defense, and they're slow. I think they're 28th in pace right now. Not to mention Embiid is back. And the only reason Tobias was popping off these last 2 games is because Embiid wasn't able to play. So I like Middleton tonight.
Julian, I mean, seems like Middleton might be the play here.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the question, Middleton's in the better matchup against a Kawhi-less Clippers team. And the fact that Embiid is coming back definitely limits Harris's ceiling, but I'm not really looking at this price range at all at forward. For me, it's either you're going all the way up to Giannis and taking those 70 points, paying up for them, or you're looking down at all the value on this slate because there's a ton of it. You've got Bruce Brown, who's been going crazy. Glenn Robinson has been a big part of this rundown Warriors squad. And then you've got really cheap guys like Ben McLemore is going to get extra minutes for Houston. Jarrett Culver is going to get some point guard minutes with both the point guards looking like they're injured in Minnesota. So for me, this is either you're going all the way up to Giannis or you're going all the way down and using a bunch of value here. No mid-range guys.
Alex, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I would prefer Middleton if I had to choose. I don't really like either of these options, kind of like Julian was alluding to. But, maybe that makes them good GPP plays. I would rather do Middleton just because I think the Clippers will try to hone in on Giannis as much as possible and make everyone else on the Bucks beat them. And, yeah, Harris is in a tough matchup against a really good Jazz team that's slow. So this range is probably going to get ignored, so maybe there's value there. And if I had to choose, I'd go Middleton.
Jules, 9-game slate. Who is your favorite value play of the night?
Yeah, I pretty much just rattled off a bunch of them. I think now, so JaMychal Green is a really good one with Kawhi out. I think he had 37 DraftKings points the last time Kawhi was out. But Jeff Teague has now been ruled out. So I think with him out, Jarrett Culver at $3,200 is going to be my guy there for the Timberwolves.
All right, Alex.
I'm going JaMychal Green. It's going to be really chalky, but, Kawhi's out. He's going to get extra run. Last time Kawhi was out, Green took 11 shots. 6 of those were threes. Now, he's probably not going to hit 23 points again, but I think the 8 rebounds from that game can stick. Getting him for less than 4,000, I think he's just a good option.
All righty, Ryan?
A little bit more expensive value play than you guys, but I am a sucker for Lou Will. 6.5K tonight. Prime time on ESPN versus the Bucks, but no Kawhi. That's huge for me. And somebody's got to score for the Clippers. And every time that's the case with Kawhi on load management, it's usually Lou Will, 7.
Finally, let's get those slate-approved picks. Alex, who's your lock on this entire 9-game NBA slate?
We're going to keep it rolling with Lou Williams. He's got a 35% usage rate when Kawhi's not on the court. That's a 13% bump compared to when Leonard's on the court. Montrezl Harrell, similar bump, also a good play.
Ryan, that's your boy. Who you going with?
I gotta have my eye on Pascal Siakam. Earlier we talked about his going over. I'm taking the over strongly. Like I said, the Kings stink. And his matchups are going to be Lotzia and Harrison Barnes, which I think is a Mitch Mass nightmare. So Pascal Siakam for me is my lock.
Jules, slate approved.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns is the first guy that I slid into my lineup. I just think his upside, those games before he was ejected and had the suspension, was great. And this Memphis team is a completely different team. Fast pace, not any big bodies that can slow Towns down on the inside and outside.
That's it. Toodles, you three.
No.
One more block to go in this program, though. We're prize checking with Reed, Jeff, and Steve on the other side of this break.
This is Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Bengals head coach Zach Taylor said Wednesday he thinks A.J. Green's going to make his season debut this Sunday against the Ravens. The All-Pro wideout has been absent the entire year so far after suffering an ankle injury in training camp. You have to believe the Bengals will have him on some snap count or bring him back slowly. Green's been bit by the injury bug over the last handful of years. A hamstring tear limited him to 10 games in 2016, and then just last year, 2018, an injured toe kept him to 9 games, especially since Cincinnati didn't trade its pending free agent star at the deadline. Perhaps there's a belief, there's a chance, no matter how big, to bring Green back. I don't know if Green is attracted to running routes, with 4th-round rookie Ryan Finley running the offense long-term. Green's had experience with the redder of the Red Rockets, Andy Dalton, who seems to be a definitive lost cause. Finley calls the shots this week, coming off a bye week, understanding he is the starter. While he's up against a confident Ravens defense, Finley has a healing offensive line, and he gets Green on the outside. That ain't too shabby.
Buffalo Bills +3.
Oh, this will be fun. We're going head-to-head again. I
I
love
don't.
it.
You're
Love it.
taking the Browns?
Let's go.
Stop it.
All right, we'll get to my reasons later.
Browns are the sharp side on that one.
I don't care. I don't care about the sharp side.
I'm just
Bills
saying.
+3 is a joke.
Real
I'm
thing
not
that was
touching-
just
I'm
said
not touching
outside.
it. Yeah, that's
out loud.
Ban'll be podcast. We don't care about the sharp side.
I don't care about the sharp side. If the sharp side won every time, there'd be no books.
They don't. They win like 60% of the time.
Okay, so 40% of the time they're wrong, and this is one of them.
Okay.
I don't get how the Bills are +3 underdogs. The Browns are terrible. Awful. Disgraceful. What else? Pull up a thesaurus. I'll do some other adjectives.
You got a computer.
Bills. I don't want to do that right now. I'm doing my picks. Bills +3. That's my first one. The other one, I keep flip-flopping. Like, even as Julie was talking, I kept flip-flopping here, but the flip has finally flopped. I'm taking Cardinals, Buccaneers over 51.5.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a lot of points in that one. Even with Winston turning over the ball 17,000 times, he's still putting up a lot of fantasy points. Evans is going crazy. Godwin's going crazy. The Cardinals will have...
And it's a good... Like, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't done anything too crazy until he threw the 4 touchdowns against the Cardinals this season. So it's a good secondary for a guy like Winston.
Cardinals
who
are
makes
just
a
going to
million
have
mistakes.
no answer for that. And the other thing is...
Kenyon Drake's not going to be able to do anything, though. They won't be able to run the ball.
Well, that's the thing. Other thing, too, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball at all. Right. So that means Murray's going to have to chuck it 30, 40 times. Take it. So over 51.5, Arizona and Tampa Bay. And the smash spot can't miss +3, Bills. But unlike Julian, you can only play one. You don't have to play both, okay? Julian's have to play everything.
All right, let's get to
You'll
my
get
picks
them all
here.
on Twitter. There were 14 last week.
Yeah,
my first play is Browns -3.
Why?
The play was 2.5 when we did this show on Monday, and I'm like, well, I bet that'll get bet down toward the Bills, right? Like, because why exactly should it be? Early returns were like 90% plus on the Bills, yet still reverse line movement to -3.
That's called sharp money.
Because look, the Bills are not as good as their 6-2 record. The Browns, maybe more from a talent perspective, are not as bad as their 2-6 record. We talked about Baker Mayfield, 7 touchdowns in 8 games, hasn't thrown multiple in any game this season. Does not matter when Nick Chubb is going to amass 150, 200 yards possibly on this Bills defense that got gashed by Jordan Howard, got gashed by Adrian Peterson, running the exact same plays that the Eagles did. I think, and this is a big if Freddie Kitchens has
Freddie Kitchens
if he retains anything from watching film.
No, he doesn't watch
Nick
film.
Chubb will run the ball 27 or 28 times in this game.
Freddie Kitchens is known for giving Nick Chubb the ball on 4th and 9. So maybe
Give it to him
this
on
is a game where he
first and
just
10.
keeps giving it to him.
Exactly. On the other side, the Bills just are so content to score 10 points and then just hover around that if the defense can keep it close. Josh Allen has continuously been careless with the football. He's just recovered a lot of fumbles recently. That could change. Maybe Singletary gets more involved. That's great, but it's probably only potentially only if the Browns get up big. They still give the ball to Frank Gore on 3rd and 1s, and I'm losing my mind as he doesn't get them. All right, so maybe there's emotions involved here, but fine. That's great. Browns -3. My other play, I'm taking the Giants -2.5 in their quote-unquote road game against the Jets. I think Gase is the worst coach.
Hoping somebody was taking that.
Kitchens, because you agree with it or because you don't agree with it?
I like the Giants -2.5.
So then why did you take it?
Now I got to change.
Because it was between Cardinals +4.5 or Giants -2.5, and I only get 2 picks, and one of those picks has to be the heavy favorites money line parlay.
Yeah, you got Lev Bell just like now making up that his knee hurts and like needs an MRI. Yet there's no indication that he's actually hurt. Gase has no idea it's even happening. Darnold is just regressing like there is no tomorrow. Daniel Jones is also from his first start against the Buccaneers, but like still looking okay. Golden Tate, Saquon Barkley, more talent. So Giants -2.5.
What's up? I'm Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Browns head coach Freddie Kitchens said Wednesday Kareem Hunt will definitely have a role in Sunday's game against the Bills. Hunt returns from an 8-game suspension for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. Kitchens admitted they're still finding out what they can draw up for both Hunt and Nick Chubb. Kitchens addressed Hunt taking some opportunities from Chubb. Nick is about one thing and one thing only, and that's winning. I don't think either one of those two are selfish at all. 2-6 Cleveland could sure use the wrinkles, averaging just 19 points per game, 25th in the league. Now, they tried using Dontrell Hilliard as a reliever for Chubb at times against Denver last week, 5 carries for 8 yards. That won't cut it, as if the Browns really need more talent, they get it in Hunt. The former Chief racked up 1,200 yards from scrimmage and 14 total touchdowns over 11 games in Kansas City last year. If they don't start scoring more points, then what? The coaching and scheme are evident weak points.
For the final time tonight, we have Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Steve Buchanan. They're here to analyze prices for a few NFL players, a little segment we like to call Price Check.
All right, AJ Green is expected to play Sunday. How much thought would you give to rostering him at $6,000, Steve?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough spot because, the chance of re-injury obviously is high. We've seen him obviously haven't made his season debut as of yet, but at least there's one thing that we know is that he's going to have plenty of opportunities to catch some passes here in a game that, the Bengals are expected to be playing from behind, which seems to be every single game they play this season here. But for somebody with the elite talent that Green has, take the discount while you can, I think, at this point, because if he starts going off, like we've known him to do, $6K is probably going to be the lowest we'll see him for quite some time now. So, like I said, in a game where we can see a lot of points be had here from the Ravens side, Bengals going to be playing catch up here, so that means that Philly might be slinging the ball in this game here. So I don't mind this at 6,000, but obviously probably more of a tournament play than a cash play.
Jeff, do you not mind it at 6,000?
I don't like this at all. Look, AJ Green's not even practicing in full yet. If he had been practicing through the bye with Ryan Finley, a rookie QB who's never played before, I'd have more interest. But we're not even sure if he's 100% healthy. And then you add in the lack of practice time with the QB. You're going to go with the Bengals wide receiver. Just go with Tyler Boyd this week. I think you're a week too early to start targeting AJ Green, in my opinion.
Week too early for you, Reed?
Yeah, and look at the secondary with the Ravens when they got Jimmy Smith back. They played a lot better for the last 2 games. Granted, the guys on the Patriots like Sanu and Edelman got a ton of targets, 80 yards around there for each of them. But if you look at Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who just went off last week when they played them, didn't have really productive games. And so that secondary has gotten a lot better of recent with Baltimore. I do like Steve's play, though, in terms of GPPs, because a guy like AJ Green, he might not necessarily need all that work because he's an elite receiver, but he's had so many lower extremity injuries that scares me, so I'm going to stay off of him.
All right, Jameis Winston is the third most expensive quarterback this week at $6,800. He's facing Arizona. It's his highest salary of the season. So would you pay up for him, Jeff? My guess is you're going to say no because I tried to trade him and Chris Boswell to you for Russell Wilson. You declined that trade.
Yeah, really interesting trade that I obviously had declined. Look, I mean, I don't think Jameis Winston is like grossly overpriced here. If you look at the game logs against what quarterbacks have done against Arizona, there's a reason he's priced up to $6,800. He might be a couple $100 too expensive, but there's a pretty good reason why going up against Arizona has been so fruitful. They play at the fastest pace of play. Their secondary is basically just bare bones. Even Patrick Peterson isn't like a shell of him former self. I still think like GPPs, he's going to be a good avoid play. I mean, the Arizona, one thing I'll say about Arizona, their D-line has come through of late. They have a pretty solid adjusted sack rate. It's top half of the league. Tampa Bay's O-line isn't that great over the last little bit. So they could get some pressure on Jameis. He's obviously a high turnover quarterback. We all know about that. And his ownership in GPPs is the big thing. It's going to be through the roof, right? So going down to like Aaron Rodgers, even Kyler Murray in the same game or Josh Allen, I think that has more appeal to me in GPPs than even chalk with Jameis.
Reed.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a case to pay down at quarterback, right? Because all of these guys have ample opportunity, and Jeff mentioned it. Those rushing quarterbacks like Kyler Murray give you so much upside, and that's kind of why I like Jameis, especially if that projected ownership in GPP stays low. I mean, look, even when he threw his 5 interceptions against Carolina, he still got over 20 DK fantasy points, and over the last 3 games, he's totaled over 1,000 yards. And so, if that ownership stays low, this is the highest game in terms of point total on the slate. I don't mind it. Again, always a case to pay down at quarterback. There's an ample amount of QBs that you go with, but I don't necessarily mind it this week.
Do you mind this price, Steve?
I don't mind. Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, you know, Reed's kind of talking about paying down at quarterback, but you look at the list of quarterbacks that are going this week that are, high priced, and there's so many good matchups to choose from. Like, it's hard to actually really get a read on, where the ownership is for quarterback. Like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, if he plays against the Titans, that's a good matchup. Winston, Breeze against the Falcons, Rodgers against the Panthers, Murray against Tampa, Stafford against the Bears. Like, there's a lot of good reasons to pay up at quarterback at this week. But, kind of like what Jeff was saying too, 27.5 DraftKings fantasy points is the average that opposing quarterbacks have against this team. It's absolutely insane. 24 passing touchdowns allowed. That's the highest mark in the league. Like, I know that Winston has problems with his turnovers. Like, that's something I've said over and over. Like, 7 touchdowns over his last 3 games. Granted, he didn't have one in the last game, which is, amazing. Like, we should get an award to him for that. But Winston is someone who can turn over the ball, but the matchup is just really so good. And we've seen guys like Evans, we've seen guys like Godwin just go absolutely off. So if you have a pairing of those guys, there is a lot of fantasy points to be had there.
Saquon Barkley was held to under 100 total yards by the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, but he's still your second most expensive running back on Sunday. He's going to cost you $8,800 against the Jets, $400 more than last week. Do you expect a bounce back performance, Reed?
I do, and he's almost $2,000 less than Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, he's the cheaper option, clearly, of the 2 best backs. And I actually like it. The Jets, look, they don't give up a ton of DK fantasy points, around 25 per game to opposing backfields. But look at the running backs that have done well. They've been elite. Guys like Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, they've averaged close to 27 touches in those games. And so when you wear down this Jets defense with an elite back like Saquon Barkley, get him into space and get him those targets and those receptions, I actually like it a lot in GPPs. Again, it all matters at ownership, because if you look at this slate, there's not a lot of cheap options at running back. So paying up at running back with either Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley is a great strategy in GPPs.
Steve, what do you think?
I'm not crazy about it, honestly. Like, Reed said it right off the top. Like, the Jets have only allowed one team to go over 100 rushing yards, and that was the Cowboys. They've given up 8 rushing touchdowns, which is tied for the 4th highest in the league, and that's fine. Where they've kind of been gashes through the air and with the receiving yards. But the problem I have with that is, are we expecting the Giants to be playing from behind in this game? Like, I don't think so. Like, I think the Giants should handle the Jets no problem here. So if that's the case, and they're pretty good against defending against the run, how productive is Barkley going to be? Like, sure, maybe he'll get his catches to start the game. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, he can get some points early in this one, but I look at someone like Aaron Jones just going up against the Panthers. Like, everybody's going to be off of Aaron Jones because of that putrid performance last week. even the Packers as a whole. But now he's in such a good spot. He's much cheaper than Barkley, and he probably has, just to be like the touch ceiling for him is up over the 20s as well with Aaron Jones. So I think you could go down here. I don't think you need to play Barkley. Like you can never go out and say you have to fade Saquon Barkley, but I'm not crazy about playing him this week.
Jeff, how do you feel about this one?
I think it's kind of a weird spot, for Saquon. I do think he's a little bit overpriced for sure. I mean, this is one of the top 5 rush defenses just for yards per carry against, right? So it's not an absolutely like a legit spot where he's going to go out and get 100 yards rushing or something. But at the same time, there's upside because Steve mentioned the receiving. The Jets have allowed the 5th most receptions to running backs in the league. And Saquon Barkley could see a few more targets with Evan Ingram out now. He was ruled out today. So I think this is actually a spot where the Giants could get ahead. Saquon might find the end zone a couple times and he might pay off. But I do feel like going up against this defense, he shouldn't be 8,800. And it's still very boom or bust. By no means a cash game target. GPPs maybe, but not like on my top 3 of the week or anything like that.
Former Jaguar Allen Robinson was a dud in Week 9, finishing with just one more catch than basically everyone in this room combined. Had one catch, just one catch. But now the Bears are at home against Detroit, and the wide receiver salary has dropped to 6'3". Would you trust him at that price, Steven?
Listen, if you score 1.6 DK fantasy points against the Eagles secondary, right, I'm never playing you again.
Yep.
Like, you're done. Like, you're on the list of do not play ever again. You just can't trust anybody who catches a pass from Mitchell Trubisky. It's getting that bad at this point. That was the spot where the Bears could get right. The offense could look better. Mitch Trubisky could actually throw, more than 5 yards on a pass attempt. It still didn't happen. It's absolutely amazing that they couldn't do even a quarter of what they accomplished against that absolutely atrocious Eagles secondary. Those group of guys, I mean, our grandfathers, our elders could beat them. It's that bad, and the Bears could not do it. No way. Anybody who catches a pass in the Bears offense, I'm done. No, I'm good.
Jeff, you're an idiot. You'll probably trust this guy.
Yeah, probably. I mean, this looks good to me. No, I mean, I just don't think his price has come down enough is what it comes down to take a shot here. I mean, look, Detroit's defense hasn't exactly been the stopper of all things lately either, and they're coming up with some banged-up players like Darius Slay. Robinson went off against them last year for a couple touchdowns and over 100 yards. By no means is this the same team, though. I mean, they're walking in with the confidence of, like, I don't even know have a good comparable. They just have no confidence. So, I mean, it's too big it's too long a bridge, too big a bridge to walk over. I'm throwing out so many bad comparables and sentences here. I'm just going to stop talking. I don't like Allen Robinson.
Okay, Reed, do you like Allen Robinson?
No, which is weird, right? Because he saw 16 targets against New Orleans and 10 receptions. And with that big game over the last 4, he's averaging, 9 targets a game? But volume is king, but it's the person who's passing you the ball. Like, I'd rather get 5 targets for 4 receptions from a guy like Russell Wilson than 20 from Mitch Trubisky, because 19 of them are not going to be on target. And we just talked about Evan Ingram being out. I mean, paying down, Christian Kirk is in that mid-5K range. Golden Tate is in that mid-5K range. So go down. Don't waste your time with Allen Robinson or anyone.
All those targets against New Orleans came in like garbage time when they were down. Like, it came in like the last 5 minutes of the game. So that was a joke.
All right, really quick on this last one, guys. Despite still being the most expensive tight end on the slate, you can get Travis Kelce at his lowest salary of the year, $6,400. Could this be a steal against Tennessee if Patrick Mahomes returns here, Jeff?
I think so. Yeah, I like the spot for a bounce back for Travis Kelce. I mean, you got to think with Mahomes, probably not going to be dancing around too much in the pocket if he starts, and he looks like he's going to start and taking too many deep shots, just trying to obviously stay upright. The Tennessee pass rush is a little bit banged up. I like Kelce a lot in this spot for sure.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, Kelce's ADOT with Matt Moore is at 6.9, which is nice, but it's not as good as the one with Mahomes, which is at 10.5. Like, the offense as a whole, yards per pass attempt goes up over 9 with Mahomes on the field. It's just a great spot overall for the Chiefs offense. So yeah, definitely roll with him if you can.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, if you want to, I agree with these guys. If you want to pivot, though, Mark Andrews is in a good spot against Cincinnati. He gets Sean Williams, who gives up a 90% catch rate. And Austin Hooper, he's also a good play. So 2 guys that are right below him, but these guys are right. Travis Kelce is in a great spot.
Good stuff, guys. Just to remind you all that Emerson has a dog. Let's see if we can. Yeah, a system dog. There
Dude,
he is.
He looks so good.
Is that
you know
the
what this
face
is?
of a system
you know,
dog?
My only issue, honestly, and it has to do with this picture. First off, that is portrait mode. Second, he went to the dog spa yesterday, and then as we're leaving the dog spa, after dropping, a nice chunk of change on his haircut, and for him to be pampered, it starts raining, and so that's why his ears look a little wet there. Right now, he is in pristine condition. I walked him a couple hours ago.
He looks great. Let me explain.
A lot of excuses there.
It's okay, Emerson.
There's just a story behind why he's wet.
It's okay. He's a system dog. It's okay.
I'm glad we rushed to our answer for this.
All right, the sweat will be back tomorrow. Emerson's going to go fight Jeff.
You want some of this? Jeff, come on, flying up to Boston, bro.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 6.